Hey, what's going on? What's going on, everybody?
What up? What up? What up?
We are
Hello.
love and blue. Poor blue.
That
Poor
avatar.
blue.
Hey,
You didn't get the memo,
it's
blue.
what you going? What y'all like, Miss Kitty?
I mean, it's
I like it.
alright,
I
but I would
like it.
prefer to see
Oh,
your burgundy and such.
you want me in my burgundy, my burgundy? All right.
We had a uniform for tonight. So we are here live. This is episode 8 of season 2 of the Binge Worthy podcast. You see George over there, Mr. G. Oliver,
What up, y'all?
relaxing and
What up? What up?
chillaxing.
Welcome to the Binge Worthy podcast. First of all,
Welcome.
what my co-hosts be thinking. We just go right in.
We do, because we be on this bitch for hours, and I'm trying to cut down the time. And then we have 2 special guests tonight. Big Mama Ama,
Hello.
the physical mama
Welcome.
in manifestation. And then we have Blue Waters. That's BLEU, because
Yes.
he's a special Negro. Blue Waters. These are 2 talented performers, 2 artists, actors. I don't know if I'm a singer.
In my shower.
He did go to Morgan.
In my mind.
She did go to Morgan, so she should have put the copy there because we not the singers that copied at all.
I'm Johnny Gill in the shower.
Straight actors. But we got these 2. I wanted to bring 2 of them on tonight. We've been hitting you back to back with our co-hosts, but we gonna hit you with a double hitter tonight. Tonight is a little I heard George talking before we started, and it's a little different tonight. We in our continuation for celebrating Women's History Month, we are doing Funny Ladies of TV and Film.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a couple really interesting shows, and I have to admit this season was packed in all of the things that I had to watch or I loved watching as a child.
This is
definitely
Nate's season.
Right. So I know George is going to hit me next season, and I'm going to be watching a bunch of
I
stuff.
can't wait for that planet. Boy, I can't wait for that planet meeting. List on list.
Right. So I mean, and my taste in TV has nothing to do actually with the content itself. It's more so just the acting, and we can all admit that at least across the board, these are some phenomenally written shows, and the acting is all about the ensemble. I know we're celebrating women, but these were some ensemble casts that we put together. And I wanted to also show at some point, my great grandmother loved different types of shows. I heard y'all talking about BBC shows, and I grew up on them. And we have some really interesting shows that tonight that I was forced to watch as a child. And then I started loving them. And I don't understand why, but I did. George, George is a slow burn. Sometimes you got to get him on the right when the moon and the stars.
Yo, I got different tastes.
I mean,
but see, don't call me. I ain't no slow burn. Nothing. I got different tastes.
Right. But I
had to watch a lot. There was a lot of television on in my house.
Right.
I remember a lot of this stuff.
Right.
But it captured Nate. A lot of it ain't all.
Well, it was more so is a lot of the things that I picked was specifically because I used to always tell everybody I wanted to be an actor. I was that person that memorized all the scripts. So all of these things that we have tonight, I know all the lines to everything that y'all saw. Thank you for the love. Please comment, all the people that's watching that will be watching, comment, share, like. But a lot of these things my family would force me to watch because I kept saying I want to be an actor, so they forced me to watch stuff that wasn't just black TV. They wanted me to watch everything, especially my great grandmother. So just blame it on her if you want to, George. But I want to once again introduce our 2 guest hosts. Can y'all say hello? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi.
Okay, I should have gave him a script. Well, this is going to be a really extra show tonight. And Miss Ama,
Hello. It's funny, Nate. You and I tend to have very similar tastes. I love everything that was on the list, which is why I was like, "This is the one I want to do." Because
Alma says that I have a white lady inside of me, and I think Alma does too. That's why she can tell mine is on the inside, but it's part of me. It's not a whole white lady.
I'm glad that you can admit that, because when Nate and I got together and we conceived this show, we were supposed to be talking about black stuff, black people stuff. And because of some things that was going on in my life, Nate got to plot out the entire second season, and then he said it to me, and I was like, "It's a lot of Caucasian. It's a lot of Caucasity in this list."
Well,
Nate.
I'm just saying, a lot of the stuff that I chose.
So now we know
it's
not a white lady in him.
But
it's all good, yo.
That's not a little white lady. It's all
the stuff, but all the stuff that I picked can be anything. Like it could be, you can switch out any culture of people, and these shows still work. Some things you can't do that to, and I don't normally like shows like that. But a lot of these pieces, you can put any race of people in it, and not just change. You don't have to really change anything. So I can
extremely relatable. Extremely relatable. Right. Yeah.
And I had a very diverse upbringing.
I will give you that.
That's why I kind of like stuff. So I want to jump right into it. First of all, we just gonna pray that Alma the water don't break tonight, and we get a show y'all can't see.
That might make us go viral, Nate.
Because this is Women's History Month, I wanted to shout out the mom on tonight, and she is with baby in belly.
Yes.
And
congratulations.
Others in the bed sleep, probably not sleep, but acting like they sleep. But yeah, so I'm gonna really enjoy tonight. And thank you too for coming on. And we just gonna jump right in it. I'm gonna let the mom pick first. Do you have one that you want to start off the conversation with?
Well, I guess the freshest thing, because I watched Sister Act today, so we can probably start there.
Just start with Sister Act.
Yes, Whoopi
and this
Goldberg.
Is part one.
This is the original Sister Act.
Mm-hmm. Yes, the original. Because I like Bleu. I love the second one, but watching the first one, there's such different films, right?
Yeah.
Really.
The first one is really for me, watching Whoopi Goldberg's character's transformation from being this extremely self-centered individual who didn't really see much past what she wanted, and then being thrust into this world because she decided she was going to testify, which is huge, because she could have just walked away, disappeared and never be heard from again and lived her life. But she decided, no, I want to do this. I want to testify and put this person in jail. And then as a result of that, she was then put into a place where she wasn't allowed to think about herself at all. And it was just that transition from being so myopic to having now this completely different view of what life can be, what this thing that she loves, music, obviously was her gift. And how she was able to give that gift to them, and that then affect an entire neighborhood of people. And I was saying earlier, it is very, very magical Negro. She's this black lady comes in and gives them all rhythm.
But this, I would have to say, this is one of those moments where a sequel worked. And I know we're talking about, we all watched part one, but I had to mention, because I'm not the biggest fan of sequels, because sometimes the second one just doesn't get it right the way the first one did, or God forbid the second one is better than the first one. That really just throws things off. But this one was one of those movies where they accurately kind of carried the story over and had it, even though it was a totally different cast, mostly, it still did a good job of kind of continuing the story, but, bringing in a fresh air. Like part two was just teenage. Well, I don't think none of them was really teenagers, but it was set in a Catholic high school.
Teenagers, actually.
They never are.
And I was mad because I went to a Catholic high school and it was nothing like that high school. Like I wish I would have went to that high school, but it was nothing like that. Like, but we
That
had
high school, like,
friars,
side high
right?
for
You know,
But
one of the I had actually forgotten that Harvey Keitel was in the cast. And so watching the movie and it opening with him and her, and I was like, oh my God, I forgot Harvey Keitel was in this. He's one of my favorite actors. He has such great timing. Such great timing. And it was really, really, I was like, oh, I forgot how much I like him and how much I enjoyed him in this movie. It was really refreshing because he doesn't do a lot of comedy.
But this was definitely I just like the storyline, and because I grew up in Catholic schools, it really just it made it was a little traumatic because I didn't have nuns, we had friars, so it was just a little different. But it was cool. Like this was a great movie. I watched it again today. Like I had already watched it for this, and then I was like, let me watch it again, and then I watched this and part two, which was great. It was a good watch, and I really enjoyed it. What about you, George?
Oh, Sister Act's a classic. Like, I think y'all have pretty much covered the bases. I will say, and I've said this I think twice, maybe at least once this season, and maybe once last season. Like Whoopi Goldberg is
she's the GOAT.
one of our real national treasures. We need to she need to get all the flowers while she's still here. That whole situation is like, to take a situation like that, it was pretty bonkers when you think about it, and she made it work, and it was believable. On top of that, like it was absolutely like you were 100% enthralled. This is one I too enjoyed the sequel. But even with I think the sequel spoke a little bit more to me at the time, because I was right in that age bracket where the classroom setting, Lauryn Hill, all of those things really resonated with me at the time. But having watched it in preparation for this episode, I realized how much I actually still do prefer the first one. I just thought this, you got this Vegas lounge singer, and the interactions between her and the nuns is priceless. Like it was priceless. It was dead on, and it was honest and believable at the same time. Like from them, and then there was that transference that I realized watching it this time. It wasn't just her, kind of changing, so to speak, because of the influence of her surroundings, these new surroundings, but her being able to influence them as well. And it was just there's a real honesty in that whole story, in that movie. And I really did appreciate that. And this one holds up. I watched it. What was that? Wednesday night, I think it was. And I hadn't watched it the original. I hadn't watched either one of them really in a while. And it was just as enjoyable as I remember it.
Yes.
So shout out to Whoopi.
What about you, Blue?
Well, anything that got good music.
Hold on, pause. Does anybody have a TV on or something playing in the background? Because it's picking up.
I feel like somebody might have an echo.
Oh.
I hear it. But I hear me.
But it's not. We'll figure it out. Go ahead, Blue.
Anything that has music in it, I'm 11. When I saw this, first of all, I'm a big fan of Whoopi Goldberg, and a huge fan. I watch all of the stuff that she's done. I think she's a phenomenal actress. And for me, it was the music. It was the music for me. I'm an old school person. I love when they were going to the Motowns, I was in there with them. I was singing along with them. I was doing all of that. I learned all of the music by heart.
Yes.
You could, and that was the first one and the second one. So,
right. But watching many shows with Whoopi Goldberg, she always talks about her love of music from the 60s and 70s. and I like how most of her movies always incorporates her love of music or certain artists or artists that don't get a lot of airtime. She only finds a way to bring a lot of those 60s and 70s artists, and even from the 50s, she finds a way to incorporate that into her movies. I don't know if that's in her contract or she just gets that creative license to do that, but I just like how she incorporates, because it's music that we know, but you don't see it in movies.
Right.
You know, they wouldn't think of putting those black artists, music artists in movies, but that's why I loved, this was my series for that reason. I loved both of them for that reason. And I don't know if y'all got to see the musical on Broadway. It was everything, like it was both of these movies combined, and it was phenomenal. I wish I would have been able to go to Britain and London to see Whoopi Goldberg do it, because she didn't do it on the one on Broadway, but it was phenomenal. It was a really good movie. A musical.
Who else did the oh Maria? I was in it. Do you hear me? It's one of those things where I hadn't thought about it until I watched it, and then they do their performance, the horrible performance, and I'm like, oh, that's right. That's the first song she remixes on them.
Right.
And I was like, oh,
she's twerking in the pulpit and everything. It was great. It was a good movie because it just felt like it was real. It didn't feel like something where they just put her in a nun uniform and just, even though that's what they did, and it didn't seem like it was very believable. The story was very believable.
I can't think of the actress's name, but she the one who plays the Mother Superior, the head of the.
Yeah,
that's
it. Yeah.
I feel like she really anchors it for you, right? Because she brings this serious authenticity to the role of being a nun, of being a woman who is in charge of this group of women, who is here to care for them and make sure that they are able to fulfill their hopes and dreams. You know, she takes it so completely seriously. I almost didn't recognize her as Professor McGonagall. Like, it's such a different. She's so different.
I think it was the habit that they were in. I think that kind of.
That also helps with the disguising of the face. Yes.
But it was. Like I said, for me, and I don't know who else on here went to Catholic school, but this was like, those people. You know, those nuns, those priests, those friars, they are those people. So she was the most identifiable to me, because that's what the people who was my teachers were like. So and she was the most recognizable.
That's what made it so believable. Their chemistry, Whoopi and her chemistry, and I think they impacted each other. I think that they were both able to. Towards the end of the movie, you saw how they really, really actually meshed, and they really impact one another, and they shifted, and I think that's what I really appreciated about the movie, was that she was able to impact Whoopi's character, and Whoopi was able to impact her character. And so that was something that really resonated and stood out to me.
That Whoopi falling in love with the rest of the nuns came from her desire to look out for these women, and she's like, I understand that. I don't want to hurt anybody. I just want to help, and I see that this is something I can do. Let me do this.
Because she was having a hard time at first, and then once they put her in her lane, then she was changing some shit up. What other Whoopi Goldberg movie stands out for you? Because I know I have my one. Okay, Ghost. The Color Purple, Ghost. What about you?
Color Purple. Color Purple is probably, I like Ghost. And I know that's the one she won her Oscar for, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I like Ghost, and I know why they gave her an Oscar for it. But it's not I honestly think The Color Purple is hands down my Whoopi Goldberg movie. Like, she just her Celie is my favorite.
Absolutely. I just watched it today. I just literally watched that movie today.
I cry every time I watch it. I can't watch it too often.
How'd you end up watching it?
Right on a Sunday. Like, that's not just a sit down there. Let me just breathe.
How you end up watching it today?
So BET is celebrating Black
women's
women.
history. Yeah,
Women,
women's
and
history.
so they
the
had
Color Purple.
They had the Color Purple because they had the Color Purple. They have The Help. They had
all month they've been playing movies,
all the Magical
all
Negro
the
movies,
classics.
Yeah.
And so for me, but the Color Purple, oh my goodness! Every time, first of all, I'm a tearjerker person, so I love any movie that can bring you to tears. Those touching movies, those ones that what is it? Fried green tomatoes, stale magnolias.
Calm down.
My girl.
I watched Beaches today. That was one for me. I know that's
Beaches. Oh my goodness. So all of those. So the Color Purple, when she reunited with her sister.
Yes.
That gets you every time.
When she first got the first letter, when Suge Avery took her into, and they found those other letters, and she couldn't even bear to open the letter and drop it. Let me tell you, I was clutching all my pearls.
When they find it, I get the first lump in my throat. Yeah. And then at the end, when Suge looks over to Mister and acknowledges that the sister is there, I was like, it's time to turn this shit off. Got to turn it off now. I saw the movie. Let me turn this shit off. But I think for me, and I don't know, many people who meet me, I always tell them to watch The Telephone, because that is like, that is actually how Whoopi Goldberg got her start doing a one-woman show, and it's basically a one-woman show. There are a couple actors that you see that go through it at some point, but it's just her in her room, basically doing one long-ass monologue by herself, and it's the craziest movie. And I tell people to watch it. Good. And it's a part of that string of like 80s movies that she did, but that isn't even on DVD. You got to pay somebody to put it on DVD because it never even went to DVD. But it's one of my favorite, hands down, Whoopi Goldberg movies. But I'm a big fan of Whoopi anyway.
Yeah,
but she got nominated for the Color Purple.
Yeah,
she did.
She lost to.
Look, the Color Purple got nominated for like 10 Oscars and didn't win any. So
I think it only won for best score. Like I think
something lame like that.
Quincy Jones.
Yeah, Quincy Jones took home an award for it.
Yeah,
but it didn't win. None of the actors won it all. So that was Sister Act. I think we all agreed that this was great, and I have to agree that this was definitely, they did a sequel right.
One of the few.
So I'll Blue, I'll let you choose next.
So I am going to do The First Wives Club.
Yes. Since we talked about Beaches.
Right.
Go ahead and give Beck her flowers.
Another group of phenomenal actresses. First of all, you got Goldie Hawn, you got Bette Midler, and what's her name? Diane Keaton?
Diane Keaton.
Yeah.
That is a powerhouse.
That was a big deal. I remember
I can read George's mind right now. I can hear your thoughts, George.
The advertisements for it was like, oh my God, Bette Midler, I'm going immediately. You ain't got to tell me nothing.
And their personalities fit so well. Like every last one of their characters fit there. It's just like they just embodied those characters so well. And I watched it. I was like, oh my goodness. I felt like at the end of the movie, I felt empowered. I was going to go find my husband and sue him for all of the shit that he did to me. So
he was gonna go find somebody's husband and sue the shit out of him.
You don't judge me, Mr. Oliver. He looked down like funny.
I just
what
thought
did
it was
you
funny.
think of it? What did you think of the movie, George?
Nothing.
I
didn't watch it. I didn't watch it.
For me, it's not even the cast for me, but it was just the timing, the script itself. It was well written. I like a well written script. That's the first thing that I look at, and then I start looking at the actors. Of course, I love Bette Midler, and I think the other two ladies always do well in comedies. But to me, it was just a great script. Like, it was funny. It was one of them things that it sounded like it was written funny, and they were just put into it, and they played their position well. But it was just a good movie all around for me. I just like the story. I love this comedies where they just the action just keep it moving, and then it's a switch up. But it was good.
It's a very poignant movie. You know, they talk about a lot of things that women currently, like even now, it's still a very current movie that women deal with in insecurities, in
ageism,
right? And so you take those things and you allow these women to just, because the reality is none of it is actually funny, but the way that they do it makes it funny, because there's nothing there. One of my hands down most vivid memories was Bette Midler having pictures of fat people on her refrigerator so that she won't go into it. Like, that is such a real ass thing. I definitely have, like,
I wish that worked.
Yeah, no, that doesn't always work.
Because I'll be looking off to the side.
Like, we've all done that. I have been known to take pictures of myself when I was really heavy and just be like, stay away from this stuff. Let's put this here so we remember where we came from and we don't go back. So, you know, it is, and Goldie Hawn and the plastic surgery, because for her, in her real life, you know, Goldie Hawn is looked at as being this very attractive, very beautiful woman, and it is very difficult to age in Hollywood. And so, you know, she just made fun of herself, which is huge. You know, she's the ability to be able to do that and be that comfortable in your skin, be that comfortable with who you are, that you can just make.
She can't hide that she got surgery, so she can't really. She got to make fun of it. But I think that can. I mean, so tell me what you didn't like about it, George.
He didn't see it.
I didn't watch it. No, I was done after I watched the 3 episodes of Designing Women. I was like, I'm done. I had my fill. I had my fill.
You didn't like Designing Women? Well, we're gonna get to that. We're gonna
get to that. I got a story about that whole thing.
You should have watched First Wives Club first, and because a movie and a television show are going to hit different when they're talking about the same issues, right? A television show moves
and
slower.
Most of the time, like when in situations like this, it wasn't that I didn't want to. I just really could. I just did not have the time to sit down and watch it. That was all. Most of the time, if I don't get to watch something before we have the episode, I will go back and watch it, and then I'll like leave my comments on the next episode. This was just one that I just didn't get. I just couldn't find the time to get around.
But this film, like as Amma was saying, like this film really picked out, and us, whenever we're choosing movies for this series, I try to pick things with issues and the content. Like everything else is, whether you like it or not, it's up in the air. But the content matter fit so perfectly with where we were right now, like ageism with women, the idea of pitting women against each other in the second marriage, in Goldie Hawn's marriage, and then the third marriage where she was almost just making herself dumb for him. Like, you know, he had nothing. She made him who he was, and he left her when he got a little change. Like, it just, you know, all of these issues are things that right now women are really speaking out against. Sexism. It had a lot of issues with that I feel like women are facing right now. So this movie
parallels really nicely with Waiting to Exhale, right? Because there's a lot of it. It's our version of that movie, right? So that idea
that is a good comparison.
I got you here. I sacrifice everything to get you here, and then you just leave. I think one of my favorite things is Bette Midler's story with because it's Bette Midler's husband who marries, what's the little girl's name from Sex and the City?
Sex and the City,
Sarah
Jessica Parker.
Sarah Jessica Parker. And she knocks her part out of the park, man. She plays that shit so well. You really don't like her at all in this movie. She works your every last nerve. She's such a whiny little, and you're like, why did you leave me for that? Like,
because he was looking at her body and not her mind.
Right. And it's unfortunate. And so that's one of the things is like when we met, I was all of the things and then some. And now you've decided that you don't want all of the things anymore. So you just, you've hollowed yourself out in order to be with this person.
That ageism is real. That was a big thing. So that was a big thing from one of the works from last week. All About Eve. Right, like that whole ageism and like the young starlet, the young up and coming versus the older.
Well, that's Goldie Hawn. That's Goldie Hawn's storyline. It's the same as All About Eve. That's the same thing that happens to her.
Right, and All About Eve came out in what, like 1950 something?
Yeah.
Still dealing with the same shit.
What about you,
the
Bleu?
issues don't change.
What about you, Bleu?
Well, like I said, I was the one who chose this movie because this is one of my favorite movies. And for me, it talks about a lot of things that women across the board are dealing with. Ageism, self-esteem, their self-image, placating to men, minimizing themselves, just so that they can get some sort of, acknowledgement. And so when I saw this, and the fact that they empowered each other, and I think that was a major part for me, was that they actually came together and they were supporting one another. And I think more women need to do that. So it was a positive message to women that, look, just because you're down and out don't mean that you can't come together as sisters and hold each other down and do something to empower other women. And so, And then my favorite, another song, because when they did that song at the end, I played that really loud, and my grandmother was like, boy, if you don't turn that damn song off. And I was like, you don't owe me, no. I told you,
take it to Bleu.
If I was married, this was the
he want to have a first marriage so he can see somebody.
I want to be the bitter ex-wife that come in and destroy shit. Yes. No.
Right. I think Donald Trump's first wife was in it. She said, "Don't get angry, get everything."
Yes.
That was the message that she left the women with in this movie.
Name?
Ivanka Trump. His first wife.
That's his. Wait, ain't that who he married to now?
No, Melania.
Oh, Melania. That's right. That's right. That's right. It wasn't Ivanka first.
Yeah. That's his oldest children's mom.
Yeah.
But so George, that was First Wives Club.
Right,
it's funny. It has a good message to it, and it's really about female empowerment at the end of the movie.
All right,
so what about you, Judge?
We going to one that I did. This was my shit as a kid. Death Becomes Her.
Ooh. Yes.
So this is the movie. This is the movie that introduced me to Meryl Streep. I was like, yo.
Okay, Meryl Streep. Okay.
And she was bad back then, too.
That's his favorite white lady. Okay.
That's my favorite. Okay. Yeah, when it comes to this acting shit, like, that's my favorite white lady. You're absolutely right.
But this was the first time we saw her in something that was comedic.
A comedic role. Right. Yeah. Right.
And she did really
it's like I don't know, like this was like I feel like there's that dark comedy where it doesn't really rely on like a comedic actor to pull off so much as the content is dark and funny and like it's not like outright.
Good timing. A lot of it was still good timing.
Yeah, like exactly. So yeah, man. Like this was one of the movies, and I don't know how I ended up watching this movie at like.
It used to come on TV
9,
a lot.
10. I don't know. We had cable, so it did. I remember it used to come on cable a lot.
Yeah.
But it was just something about this movie that I always liked this movie. Like, Bruce Willis was hilarious in it.
This combination of people, Goldie Hawn, Meryl Streep, and Bruce Willis. It was a great combination of actors together.
Yeah.
And they played off each other very, very well. I also am a fan of Meryl Streep. I'm not a fanatic like George, but
I mean, I'm not a fanatic. She's phenomenal though.
Right.
Yeah. Right. She really is.
It was a great film in that and again, another film that was picked because of the messaging, like beauty standards, ageism, like really, and this whole movie was about them trying to roll back the clock and stay young forever. And they messed up their whole life trying to be. I mean, it's something
each other's lives,
right? Right, trying to compete with each other because Goldie Hawn was the mistress in this, and they were trying to compare each other, and then they found the fountain of youth, and it was a lot of like, damn, like I should just like myself, because I think Bruce Willis decided he wanted to age because he came up with, I think he was a plastic surgeon, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So he decided they offered him like, hey, you can live forever. He decided to grow old. And the two of them like stayed the same, but they had to like spray paint because they couldn't afford to keep getting the serum and whatnot.
Well, it wasn't that they couldn't. It wasn't even. I don't think it was that they couldn't afford it. It was like she warned them, you got to take care of your body now because you aging beyond. Like,
and
they decided they was gonna fight it out.
Right.
When she
they're
shot
right.
They breaking each other's neck, and that was what was so funny. Like, they was like stone cold trying to kill each other, and that's what I thought was so funny about the whole thing. Like, so, and so I don't even think if they had taken more of the potion, it would have changed anything. Like, man, you dead inside. You gotta keep your body up.
Their skin was peeling.
Their skin was sagging and peeling off,
hardening.
Shorty's neck couldn't stay straight up. Like that joint was. I was dying.
Another level to that message, because the last movie was about sisterhood, and this movie is about the antithesis of that, right? They had been frenemies since high school. They spent even their teenage years trying to destroy each other, and so it's such a funny juxtaposition, I guess, that they end up needing to rely on each other and also still trying pretty much to destroy each other till the very end. They never really learn to get along or to like each other. And that was one of the things, was you felt so bad for Bruce Willis's character because he got caught up in the middle of that and didn't realize what he was getting himself caught. Like Goldie Hawn, before the transformation, she tried to warn him, this is what she does to all of the men that I date. She takes them. So, be careful. And he's like, no, it's not that serious. And then the next thing you know, he's getting married to her. And so it was his character just got caught. And I'm like, you feel so bad for him because his life was going really well. He had his profession. He was solid. And then these two women just came and, in the name of hurting each other, destroyed everything he had. He escaped. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, he got out of there. He
broke out of there.
I feel bad for you. I ain't feel bad for you. He made his decision. You make your bed, you gotta sleep in it.
But he ended up being the one that had the most fulfilling life. Like at the end.
Yeah. Like you get the idea that he died happy. You know what I mean? Like he got the hell away from them and went on ahead and lived the rest of his life in peace.
But this movie, I think, go ahead, Bleu.
I think that is a deeper. It took me to a deeper level with this movie because it kind of showed how people's fear of growing old and getting to the point where they feel insignificant, and so for me, when I was watching it, that resonated to me because here it is: these two women that they were successful. They had done what they were supposed to do, and technically they had good lives, but they wanted more. They didn't believe that they had accomplished all of the things that they had actually accomplished, and they wanted more. And they feared that they would become irrelevant, insignificant.
Their vanity.
extreme vanity. And his thing was, part of life is growing old. And I think that is something that people generally fear, is that part of life is growing old, and that death is something that is a part of life. That as you live, you die, and that everything that you accomplish in life, you have to, pay attention to those things while you have them, because they were trying to hold on to their youth. They were trying to hold on to their careers. They was trying to hold on to their marriages. They were trying to hold on
to
the image of, but it was all the image and the facade. That's what they were holding on to. It wasn't anything deeper than that, because their vanity really got them into, looking like this in this photo. That's their vanity.
And that's another thing. That's society. That's like, everything people look up is so superficial and everything. And these was that, like, he really had the real meaning of what happiness is truly about, where they were thinking it was about all of the superficial things. Yeah. And in the end, they were left looking like zombies.
Broken into a million pieces.
With a whole, oh my goodness.
That last scene for me was, I laughed at it. But you know what? Watching this when I was younger, because as George was saying, this used to come, for some reason, this was one of those movies that just came on all the time. And I would catch it, but watching it now, as I'm like contemplating what 40 is going to be like, and 40 getting real close.
Wonderful.
Well, you already old, so this
wonderful, absolutely beautiful. 40 is the new 20.
But you have to get there sometimes to discover that. It's not always, not everybody has that feeling as they go along. And just watching it from a different age is like, I get some of what they were going through, because I've never been a white lady, but I understand like the aging aspect of it. And now you used to be, no, I have not. But and me used to always being the youngest person in the room. And then you like, damn, how did I become the oldest person in the room? Like, what happened? When did that happen? But a lot of this movie, I really enjoyed it. And I used to watch this simply for Goldie Hawn and Meryl Streep. But this movie is still funny. It's sad at moments, but it was a good movie all around. Go ahead.
It was super popular when it came out. It was a big deal. Because of course you had Meryl Streep and Goldie Hawn, and it was Meryl Streep's like first big comedy. Yeah, it was a big deal when it came out. So I'm not surprised that it was syndicated quite a bit shortly after.
I just remember it just coming on just random times. That's how I first watched it. I didn't watch it in a movie theater. I watched it on cable.
I can't even remember when I saw it first, but I know when the first time I saw it, I fell in love with it. The movie is hilarious.
It will keep you laughing, but them beating each other up with shovels and shotguns was it for me. It just took me out all the way out.
That joint was funny.
Right. So George, you up next? What's your pick?
I chose Death Becomes Her, sir.
Oh, you're up next.
It's your turn.
Yeah, I'm all over. I'm kind of stuck. I'm gonna leave 227 for last because that's my favorite. But Designing Women, like, so I'm gonna start with George this time. What didn't you like about? Now,
she was a phony ass Golden Girls.
It's
a phony ass Golden Girls.
I picked this movie because there were a lot of racial things that happened throughout this.
I made the first 3 episodes. That's it.
With the actor Meshack, who was the black guy that was in this, and it was, I don't know why. When I first started watching it, it was just very uncomfortable to me to watch him be the only black person in this until like season 5 or 6 when what's her name, Shirley Ralph came on as a recurring character. Right,
he was the only 6 seasons.
It was longer than that. I think it went on for 7 or 8 years.
Yeah, I was gonna say it was a classic run for a television show. It was very, very popular. Right. And one of the things that I like, so again, television shows hit differently than movies, right? TV shows have a little more time to kind of massage out their focus and their story. And I don't think I watched I watched the first 3 episodes just to kind of remind me of who the characters were. But I honestly I was probably more of a season 3, 4, and 5 individual. When Meshach was a full-time character, and they were dealing with a lot of, because it takes place in the South. You have all of these Southern belles who have their various reasons for being where they are. Almost every one of them is divorced. If they're not divorced, they've never been married. Which is a whole nother issue, being a Southern woman, not ever having been married. Delta and her character was very impactful. She, that idea of someone who is I'm pretty and I'm here, and you all can all thank me for being pretty, for being, so there is
then it's thrown back in her face,
right?
Because that becomes the arc of her storyline, like being faced with again vanity.
Right. And that's basically what Delta deals with, her character deals with. And then having her older sister there, the wiser, more seasoned, but she's the one who never got married. They all got divorced. They're all divorcees, aren't they?
No, Julia her husband died and then she got remarried.
Okay. But so
and ain't one of them married to one of their ex-husbands? Or something like that.
She started dating
in the first episode. That was the whole thing. Like she was dating.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like the ex-husband.
I don't think that marriage ever goes through. I think that was just I honestly think that happened just in that episode. After that, it was a nonsense.
Yeah, it wasn't a thing anymore.
But that's the thing with sitcoms.
One of the things that drives me nuts about old late 80s and 90s TV shows is y'all started this whole thing that you could have run with, and then you just dropped it.
Or they just change it. Like they make a decision. That's sitcoms, and like you said, the 80s and 90s sitcoms, like they would just change their mind with characters, and you just made a whole decision in the last episode, and you just gonna change that right now? Like we just like replacing characters and stuff. It go. And that was the demise. That was the demise of this TV show, because they changed out characters, and it was really centered around Delta Burke. They were starting to treat her like the fat girl on the set. In real life, she was dealing with her weight, and then she had to come to work. And they were real vicious with the names of the titles of their episodes. And they had one episode where people shoot fat girls. That was like the name of the title, and it was about her being this beauty queen, then getting all these jokes at her high school reunion. And it was really
in one of the first 3 episodes, they deal with weight, and they deal with it in a man, which is a whole nother dynamic, right? It's like there's that idea that men don't feel fat and men don't feel unattractive, and then they were.
So did y'all find this funny?
It was
my problem. That was my issue. I didn't find it funny. I didn't find them funny.
Well, I think
it was funny. The Golden Girls, them chicks was funny. This was like
what's funny about this.
So we know George like old chicks there. Okay, we got you. I
have been known to like my women.
Funny for you have to just know Southern humor. Because these were really like, and it's kind of like that dynasty.
It's like British. It's like British humor.
And
I get British humor.
Yeah,
it's got that Texas humor where it has Southern belle humor to it. So if
Georgia
you're really not into that type of humor, you really would look at it and be like, okay, this is dry. Now for me, that's what made it funny, because I know those type of caricatures when you see individuals that are from the South, and you're like, okay, I understand. And even the name Sugar Bakers, I'm like, okay, this sounds like something from
some plantation,
somewhere in Kentucky or somewhere in Texas, Wyoming or someplace like that. But it just has that country Southern thing that was going on, and then the
Very
fact that the one black guy that is in there, and everybody loves him, and he's like the chauffeur. He's
he's the ex-convict. Yeah. So it was. But see, they dealt with this show, even though it was a comedy, a sitcom, it still dealt with like real life or current issues for that moment. And it was jarring sometimes because they would mix the humor with it. And these were like Southern Atlanta white women. And then Meshack, I forgot his character's name. But it was uncomfortable, even as a child watching it.
Anthony Bouvier.
That was his name. But it was just,
which was not believable at all. But
but it was the South though, so it could definitely have been.
Yeah,
it could definitely be. But I get what you're saying, because this wasn't a group of funny women. Most of those actresses that were on there were dramatic actresses. They wasn't comedic actors like Golden Girls. But it
was not comedic at all.
But see, it wasn't. I think because they dealt with serious issues, and they were dramatic actors. So they did like the Julia Sugarbaker character. She would just go off on these long monolithic tangents, and that was funny. That she was that serious about. Like, it was one episode where they had put up a newsstand and they were selling pornographic magazines, and she kept driving into the stand, like literally driving her car, and they kept on suing her, and she would have to she was taken to jail at one point. And that was the humor in it, that she was that serious about censorship that she would like keep driving her car. And she was willing, she was willing to keep writing these checks to pay the fines for driving into this newsstand. But I think their humor was real smart, and it was just controversial at the same time.
So here's because George and I watched the same 3 episodes. So, I think episode 2 is the one where they have the little girl and they enter her into the beauty contest. Mm-hmm. So the funniest scene for me is the scene where the mom is there and she's putting on all these creams and wiping it off. And then she's doing another, and she's telling her, beauty isn't something you need to be concerned about. And you shouldn't work so hard at it because, shit. Now, as I sit here constantly, so that was kind of the way that they did things, is these women were serious about what they were saying, but their actions almost always contradicted a lot of what they said too.
I got that
which
out
is
of the
a
first
very
3 episodes.
Southern thing. It is a very oh, bless my people.
It's a real.
I guess
not what I do.
I mean, putting it like that, I guess, there is humor in it. Like, I was watching it, I was just like, and honestly, you had to think like this show was out in the early 80s, late 70s, early 80s. So there's that perspective. There's that perspective on it also. Mm-hmm. I'm so far removed from that type of comedy now. Like, that might have been funny when I watched it, like, as a kid, even understanding the juxtaposition between what they were saying and what they were doing. Right. But then I watch it now, and it just, in today's day and age, it just seems really forced. So when I'm watching the first 3 episodes, and like, I get it. I get like the attempt to be funny. It just didn't land well for me this time.
Well, I think this was one of those. Right. This was one of the examples of, they were never trying to be funny. Like, the comic relief was supposed to be the Delta Burke character. She was the comic relief, and the other tall one, they were the comic relief. And then the other 2 were supposed to be the smart ones. But it was just situational comedy, and satire is not the same as it was before. Right. It was real setup. It was real. The storylines were built around these characters and who they were. A lot of who they were added into it. And then it was a lot of headline topics that they were dealing with. And they just don't do that the same way now. It's not done the same way. And then it's almost like now comedy you see a bunch of comedic people doing it, and it takes away from it sometimes when funny people doing funny things, because then it's over the top funny. But it was always uncomfortable to me because I didn't see myself in it. Meshack didn't represent me because he was this convict, and
I ain't even make it to that part.
It was because he wasn't really in the first season as much. He was like more the delivery boy at the time, but his character becomes like the convict that turns his life around because these white women, support him and love on him. Right. They save him and they give him a job. Julia gives him a job not knowing he was a convict, and then they learn it, and then they fall in love and he become one of the family. But it's a good storyline, but it's still like it's some problematic parts in it. And I'm surprised it's not one of the shows have gotten that. And that's probably why it's not on any of the streaming networks yet, because it had a lot of.
It's on Hulu.
Racial. It's on Hulu.
Yeah, that's where I watched it.
But it's still on Hulu. But it and I was actually surprised that it didn't come with a disclaimer, because you at this point they still show you those things, but they say, hey, there's some viewpoints in here that aren't too kosher.
You said what again, George?
Is Hulu doing the disclaimer? I thought that because I felt like that disclaimer was just Disney Plus. And
is that just Disney?
Maybe Netflix. Maybe Netflix did it as well.
All of them. Well, I think Disney. Well, I think they're starting to do it because things are starting to be labeled as problematic. But this is one of those shows, especially like towards like season 4 or so. There's an older lady character that comes in, and her character is very unknowingly racial. And I can hear this one thing. She said, black man. Every time she would see him, that's what she would say to him. And then Delta Burke's character and Anthony had a real step and fetch, master servant type of relationship. Right. And that's something that Anthony's character had to deal with throughout the whole run of it with various characters, not all of them, but just various ones. But this was definitely a thing of the white savior, the white woman who saves the black man and supports him and helps him through college. And he gets his master's, and then he marries a prostitute from Vegas. Like, it was real. It was real. That's why I picked it, because I thought y'all would watch some of those episodes, but
next time, you got to come with the episodes.
Right, tell me what to watch.
You got to tell me, watch these episodes. We need to watch.
If you looked at it on Hulu,
I ain't watching 6 seasons of that shit.
No, I'm saying the titles of it are crazy though. Like, if you saw the titles of it.
Now I'm gonna go back and look.
Just look at the titles, and you like, this shit is crazy. It tells you exactly what they're gonna talk about. But some of the titles are, especially with Delta Burke, like, there was always a fat something or dealing with her weight or her like she ended up having to leave the series because this was too much for her. And a lot of the interviews that she did, it became very toxic because they was writing jokes. And if you're dealing with something in your real life and they sitting up there writing about the shit that they reading in the tabloids, and that's what she was saying. She was like, whenever a tabloid would come out, a storyline about her would be on the show. So it was really interesting to watch her.
Law and Order in her.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were.
They was giving her that Law and Order treatment.
Yeah, Shamira Carter's watching. Yeah, it's very much so Southern humor. So you have to, if you have Southern people in your family, or if you're Southern like Amma is, so I know Amma got a lot of this. It's real backhanded comments. It's not a lot of direct conversation or direct comments or anything like that, but it's real.
Nice, nasty.
Yeah, like a white Southern woman could do. So, Bleu, what did you like it, or did you like it, or was this something that you watched?
I mean, I like Southern. I mean, I consider myself a Southern belle, so, but
Baltimore's finest.
Yes, no, it wasn't the Golden Girls. It wasn't Reba. It wasn't those shows, but
that's all I was saying.
It wasn't. But that wasn't that. This comedy was kind of a blend to me because it was like it gave me a little bit of Full House and some other stuff going on there. So it wasn't something that I would look for to get a laugh. I think he was supposed to be funny. I think Meshach's character was him and the tall lady was supposed to be the comedy. And Delta Burke, I don't know if she was supposed to be it as well, but it didn't really do too much for me. That wasn't a show that I would run home to watch.
Meshach in the beginning, he was too over the top.
They refined his character.
His voice was always too high, and he was like always
for some strange reason. When I first saw it, I thought he was Arsenio Hall, and I was like, what is Arsenio Hall doing in this damn show?
That's what I thought when I saw this picture right here, the one that's up right now. But from a distance, I was like, "Oh, is that Arsenio?" And then I was like, "Oh, that's not him." No.
This ain't Arsenio. And then I watched the show, and then I was really like, "This ain't Arsenio." And then I was like, "What happened?" So
if you watch this more,
I stumbled on. And I would watch. This was a show I would watch when I had nothing else to watch. Like if I was doing homework and this came on the television and it was watching me first, and then I just start watching it.
That's probably how I saw it too.
Yeah, so it wasn't like
I ain't watching it at this point because those days are over of not having.
I think the main character I liked out of the group was the oldest Sugar Baker.
Yeah,
I like her character, Julie. Is it Julie or Julia?
Julia.
Yeah, her character was my favorite character in the whole bunch. And then second would be I think that's her cousin. The tall one is the cousin.
The one who was the front office manager.
No, they wasn't related.
I think three of them were. I know
that was later on. Where a cousin came on.
Okay, the tall one wasn't. Okay, so I like her character too. So those are the two characters that I like. Delta's character didn't do much for me.
Her characters. You had to take it because in the beginning she's so. She's not here. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And it takes a while for her character to come down to earth. And then by the time she comes down to earth, then she's dealing with her weight. And they never really give her a chance, man. Unfortunately, I like Delta as an actress. I've seen her in things outside of designing women.
She became like a Lifetime actress. You can see her on Lifetime movies now.
Right.
But so this was right. This was Designing Women, and it's a kind of a like or don't like. It's not a lot of gray area in this show, but I think it's a lot of issues. Again, another TV series that dealt with a lot of issues that women deal with, but it was more so a lot of behind the scenes stuff. But then a lot of the stuff that you would see in it was like subtle things, and you like, did she just call him a black man to his face? Like it's like little, but it wasn't disrespectful. But it was like, she didn't date. No, somebody who's writing this think like that, and they just watered it down a little bit. But it definitely was a cool.
But it makes sense because the humor that they were using is Southern humor.
Yeah,
so it's like having a white woman say "black man" or something, or finding that
black man. Yeah, that's how she would introduce herself to him.
Yeah,
every time he would come in the room. Every time he
really walked right at him.
Whenever he would come in a room, it would be black man. She was like a ditzy older woman, and she was supposed to be the Sugar Baker's like godmother or something who came in and they were taking care of her. But she was like senile, but that was what she was doing. She was one of them old white ladies.
But see, now her character was believable because she's an older white woman in a southern town, and you expect her to be modernized, and she's not. So she's see her, do her thing, and it was like, okay, I can see that. But it's that southern humor. You have to understand that that's what So I got it. I understood what they were doing. It just was dry for me. So
right, as much as I liked it, I had the issue with how the Meshack, Anthony Bouvier character was kind of portrayed and how he carried himself. And I just didn't. If he wasn't in it, I would have liked it. Yeah. I couldn't do it.
But you have to remember, you always have to remember the time frame that it was on air, and the setting of it, the time frame it was on air, the time frame of the show, and the setting of the show, which unfortunately dictate. I mean, that was kind of the way it was with the Fresh Prince when it first started out. Will was mad ghetto, and then over time they refined his character a bit. Yeah. But he had to fight for that, right? They didn't want to do that. They wanted to keep him very Philly. And he was like, well, what sense does it make that he spends all this time with these people and he never grows?
And he doesn't grow. Yeah. Right. So that is typical for 80s and 90s shows where you see that. And now we're hearing a lot of these actors talk about what the struggle was for them versus the writers and the producers and the studios that were doing these shows. Now a lot of stuff is independent and it's being done, and now we have all these variations of streaming sites and networks that are now popping up, so you get a little bit more freedom in telling the story. But it's sadly, a lot of actors are still going through this, and now we're seeing these issues that they were facing in like reality shows. Now we understanding that these reality show people are puppets basically, and that people are still going through this, but we're just seeing variations of freedom basically.
Right.
We're just seeing the gambit of freedom now. But again, that show is, I'm surprised it's not on a problematic list, strictly because it's a Southern show, but maybe I might blow the whistle. Maybe
I think it's because it deals with so many women's issues. It kind of gets that little skate by.
Yeah. So we have one last show to talk about, and George, you said you never saw this show before.
I wasn't able to find it.
Okay.
And because I don't watch TV on YouTube, I never thought to check for it.
Don't sleep on YouTube. YouTube
I do.
The catch-all. Don't sleep on YouTube.
I don't really sleep on YouTube. I actually spend a lot of time on YouTube. I just don't be looking for
YouTube.
I really don't be looking for scripted television on YouTube. I just don't.
See, a lot of stuff that has not been picked up by the streaming networks and is no longer on network TV, YouTube has it.
You keep telling me that, and I keep forgetting to look.
Stuff that you like. I wonder what happened to that show. YouTube has it.
One of my favorite cartoons as a kid is a cartoon called Eek the Cat, and it was done by Fox. Fox refuses to put it on TV, but you can find full episodes on YouTube.
The whole series.
What about Pepe Le Pew? Can we find him on YouTube?
You're shutting Pepe Le Pew down, George. You stop that.
Huh? What'd you say?
Why he couldn't get closing the door on Pepe Le Pew?
Why Pepe couldn't just get a disclaimer?
Why couldn't they just write him? Right, but why couldn't they just rewrite him?
It's got a disclaimer. I heard his scene in Space Jam was going to be one where he was going to get the taste slapped out his mouth for being too handsy, and then get a lesson about. I thought that would have been a better way to handle that.
People don't want resolve anymore. People don't want resolve. They just want you to be canceled and wiped from the face of the earth. That's right. It's a cartoon character.
Nobody wants you to grow, and no one wants to accept that people change and grow and become different people. That's why that girl lost her job.
But I want people to just be able to just turn their television off if they don't like it.
If they're offended, right?
You don't have to watch it. If you don't like it, you don't have to watch it. You don't have to subscribe to whatever it is that they're saying. I understood it. Now, I've never been one, and I know we're probably going off topic and everything, but I've never been one to look at a cartoon.
We make a good time. You see that clock, George?
Yep.
I was like,
go ahead.
I've never been one that would go and look at a cartoon and decide that I want to go and find a shotgun so that I can blow somebody's face off and it leaves a black powder mark behind. You know what I mean? Never thought that. Never thought about dropping an anvil on a cousin's head.
Or maybe, wait a minute, I don't know about that. But
I never thought about that.
I'm going to say that I know
you might not have. Some people have.
I
remember when they were trying to cancel Power Rangers because a little kid, they were playing Power Rangers and throwing rocks since they ain't had blasters. They was throwing rocks and a kid died. A kid got hit with
from a rock. See, these babies are too soft.
Yeah. Oh, you know what?
You ain't never got hit with a rock.
You know it wasn't.
I know somebody.
We used to have rock fights.
You know it wasn't us. You know it wasn't us. We had rock fights. Like we had rock fights, cranberry apple fights. Like my hood, we used to wait till the snow iced over so we could throw that instead of snowballs. So like it wasn't us. I know it wasn't us.
About that, like we slid down a hill on a trash can top into traffic. That was fun. So it was like
you dying over rocks. Oh my god!
You saw a cartoon like first of all, I just understood.
This was back in the 90s.
Yeah,
like this was while Power Rangers was like on air. Prime.
I remember that.
And it was like out in the Midwest somewhere, and some kids were playing Power Rangers, and they were throwing rocks, and one of them got hit with a rock and died.
You know the GI Joe.
I don't know. I wasn't there.
He was a boulder.
Right. The GI Joe projectile missiles. They stopped making those because some kid shot himself down the throat and died, choked and died. So it's a whole lot.
We don't be thinking like that, but some kids are impressionable, and that happens.
I have one funny story, and then I'm gonna take it to the TV show. A friend of mine told me a story about his cousin who found some gunpowder, and so what he decided he was gonna do was make a little trail, and leave a pile. But what you don't know about gunpowder is gunpowder does not burn, it explodes. It immediately ignites.
Ooh.
So as soon as he lit it, it all exploded. He blew his eyebrows and the front part of his hair off for a couple months. So
but just a couple months.
He learned his lesson. He won't do that shit again.
It's not permanent. He learned to do it again. And he got a funny story to tell for the rest of his life. And that's how most of the dangerous shit we did as kids ended. Right. Like we got an injury,
a little burn,
It didn't last, and we tell those stories today. For some kids, it just don't always work out that well.
No, it doesn't. Unfortunately, not everybody's lucky.
I thought it was what happened to Pepe Le Pew, but I get it. I feel like I get certain stuff.
But with the cartoons, I'm confused because it's not a human being like
when I
Bill
think about
Cosby that did something. This is a cartoon that you can rewrite their dialogue. You can redraw them. You can reanimate them.
Did y'all ever?
They probably decided that would have upset
Did you have to cancel him? No. Did you need to get rid of was it probably appropriate to get rid of that older shit?
Personality?
Probably, yeah. And when I say that is because that stuff still, if you don't do anything about it, it's just still out there.
But
when I think about my kids today, and how difficult it is to really fully monitor what they watch, you don't want your kids stumbling on stuff without proper context. Mm-hmm. And even if we had that scene in Space Jam and he got his, somebody got Pepe's mind right, and then from that point on forward, they could write Pepe as a character that wasn't so rapey. Until you do something about what has come before that, it's still out there. And it always has the potential to land in front of someone without the context, who then thinks that's okay.
The message that it sends, though, is in real life, that's what we do to people. We can't, so you can't change history either. Like if somebody raped somebody in the past, you can't change history, but do they deserve to be in jail for the rest of their life? What if they actually change their heart or change their mind or their mentality changes? And
So I'm gonna just go on the record and say, if you rape somebody and you get away with it, when it's found out, you should probably go to jail.
Go to jail, how much time are you serving?
Whatever the time they handing out for rape. But honestly, you go to jail for rape, your life pretty much over. I mean, it is what it is. Whether you get caught today, if you did it yesterday and got caught today, or you did it 30 years ago and got caught today. It don't really matter. At the point that happens to you, that you end up having to be held accountable for that action. Yeah.
So I think with me,
We have a therapist. We have a therapist on it. So, as a therapist, what do you think, therapist?
Ooh.
You nigga.
Yo, really just put your put you all out there.
Yeah, I don't know who you talking about, but I'm saying.
I'm not saying be controversial. I'm just saying.
No, what I'm saying, I will say this: I don't think the Looney Tunes was appropriate for children anyway.
No,
I think none of the content, and I think that this is why I have an issue with it, because they're picking and choosing what to cancel, and in reality, the entire show was inappropriate from the beginning to the end. But what happens is that they're being selective about what they decide that they want to cancel. And I think that that's the issue. For me, Looney Tunes has always been racist. It's always been sexist.
Sexually charged.
Homophobic. It's always been violent. It's always been all of the things that we should have an issue with. And the caricature, like even when Tom, like all of the cartoons during that time frame, look at Tom and Jerry, the female that what's it called him, Jasper. That was a racist show and violent show. It was always those types of shows, and those are the things that we're seeing now because we're adults. When we were children, we weren't paying attention to them. And I think that that's something that we should be mindful of, is that a lot of the stuff that we're calling attention to as children, our minds have
never thought about it that way.
So when we say that this is rapey, I think that more so than anything, it was a skunk and a cat, and the skunk stunk. And for children, that's what it was. The skunk stink, and the cat recognizes that the skunk stinks. Adults, we see, he's trying to rape her. Well, children's minds are innocent, and we tend to corrupt them with our own stuff.
Our experiences.
More so than anything, we should be mindful of what we're projecting onto children. Children are innocent. Do we need to have a dialogue about boundaries? Absolutely. But that's something that we should be doing anyway. You know, if my child saw Pepe Le Pew or a situation like that, well, first of all, my child is not going to let nobody touch on him. That's just point blank, period. Like, you don't let nobody do certain things. So that's just my whole thing about this whole cancel culture. It's about accountability. I think that parents need to raise their children. They should not wait for teachers. They should not wait for television to raise their children. They should do that before they are exposed to these things. And they should have these regular dialogues with their children, you know, about what it is that they're watching. Like, you shouldn't just stumble across the fact that your child is watching something that
would make you laugh. That you would be
already know what they're watching.
Right.
And I think that's.
Sorry, I want to bring it back to 227 because I gotta get up. I gotta be at work at 5, and so we gotta wrap up our discussion.
So 227 was a phenomenal cast of actors. A lot of these actors, Marla Gibbs, started out in theater, and she did another show that prompted them to hire both her and Jack A. Harry. They did another show together, and this show really, I think, took the black cast to another level because the humor was just a funny show. It wasn't a lot of like dramatic episodes. It was strictly a situational comedy sitcom. Like, and it was good. It was the first time that we saw one where it was an ensemble cast and it wasn't any controversy behind it. There was a little bit of, layers in terms of the characters, but it wasn't any stereotypes really. I know Jack A character played like the sex kitten, but it wasn't overly done. It wasn't like her titties was hanging out every show or
right.
But she just liked the fellas. She liked the fellas. Tell me what did y'all watch it? Did you enjoy it? What did you enjoy about it or did not enjoy about
Rose? I love Rose's character. She was nosy, she was old, and she was always reading. Love her.
Yes.
From the windowsill.
From the windowsill. She had a word for everybody in that neighborhood. And I like Calvin too. Calvin I like him. He was smooth.
remember watching this show as a kid and enjoying it, enjoying the ensemble, enjoying this group of people who are all so very different, but all very much loved each other and looked out for each other. It felt like part of the neighborhood. And yeah, I agree. There was nothing in it that was overt or too much. It was very well done. It felt like this could be anybody's neighborhood. These could be any people. We just happen to be in a Black neighborhood watching these people, but these people exist in all neighborhoods.
I like the fact that they were in Washington, D.C. Like they were in the city. So that really showed that they were Black. Like this was a Black family. But
I enjoy kind of the way the characters grew. And you know, one of the episodes I watched was the episode where, forgive me because I don't know names. The main character and her husband, she's trying to get her husband's attention, but it's Sunday afternoon.
Mary, that's her name.
Mary, that's right. Mary's trying to get her husband's attention, but it's Sunday afternoon, sweetie. Like he's watching football. Leave him be. You are setting yourself up for failure. And so she goes through all of the tricks and tactics, so much so she buys tickets for the most important game of the season. She gets them on the 50-yard line. But she doesn't recognize the significance of these tickets, the significance of the seats. He does, but he also isn't really making time to try to explain it to her. And she isn't open-minded. Because there comes a point where she's talking trash, and I'm like, ma'am, you're sitting in, you're rooting for the Cowboys, sitting in the section for the Redskins, first of all. And then you're talking bad about right. And then you're talking bad about the best player or the most valuable player on the Redskins team, as if these people aren't going to get mad at you. And then when they start to get mad at you, instead of humbling yourself, because you're in a group, like you're here, you came here to spend time with your husband, but now you're starting a fight with this group of people. What was your purpose? So that episode kind of frustrated me a little bit, but also I am the woman who is leaving you alone when you're doing the thing that you like to do, because I'm not about to set myself up for failure. We're not gonna fight. No, you're playing a game. We'll talk later. It's fine. I'll come and get me when your session is done. So
thank you.
So
that's for all the men out there. Thank you. We appreciate you. We do.
So. It was kind of those things where she had to learn, she learned that the hard way. And that's kind of a classic sitcom episode, right? Almost every sitcom has that episode where one part of the couple has to learn the hard way that this is just not the time. And I need to figure out something else to do with myself. And I guess that's kind of something that all human beings go through that at some point. Maybe I learned that because I grew up the only girl in my house. There was my mother, and then there was me. And my mother and I, we watched football. We understood it. I didn't mess with my brother when he was playing his games because he wasn't going to listen to me. So I would just, I learned, I had that experience growing up and understood it. And so I guess that there are people who they don't grow up with that. And so they don't know how to adjust. And so you've got your sitcom there to teach you that.
And this cast really, and I think you met Bleu. I think you met Pearl, because that was the older lady in the window.
Rose is the one who owns the building.
Yeah,
which was another one of my favorite things. That had a Black entrepreneur.
Yeah. Well, all of them were business. Well, even the husband, he had his own business. His own
construction company.
They were very active. You didn't see any like bum characters in this, like stereotypical drunks, or it wasn't anything. Not to say that you can't show the gambit, but it was refreshing to
working
see,
class,
right? And being of Maryland, living in Maryland, growing up in Maryland, you see this was a familiar type of family, but we had some really great standouts. Countess Vaughn, if people remember who she was the daughter on the Parkers. Jackie Harry, who we know as being a comedic actor, but she started out being a dramatic actor as well. Regina King, like this where she
Right.
got her start from. This was her
Marla
first.
Gibbs.
Right, this was her first show. Marla Gibbs, she was a pro at this point by the time she got to this. And I want people to look up Helen Martin. That was Pearl, the older lady. She had a very interesting story because she started young and she had no real training. And she got into this world of acting. And she mainly did stage plays, but she did some television. But she's one of those actors like Marla Gibbs, like Jackie Harry. Well, we all know Regina King at this point, but they all had a ensemble of like characters in this that were really great at what they did and really, added to this blend of the blend of this cast. But this was 227. I know I watched every episode of this when it came on. Like this was one of those things where I gotta get home wherever I was with school, dealing with school, whatever. I had to watch it, and it was definitely like something that I enjoyed watching. And it was very sad when it went off. But I watched this religiously.
I'm
This
pretty
is
sure.
Cosby. This the Cosby's and A Different World. Those are the three shows that I had to watch.
I'm pretty sure I caught this at like around the same, because I would watch Nick at Night, and I feel like it was very much in this. And maybe it came on late night on BET in the early 90s.
No, this was on regular network TV.
I know.
When it first came on,
syndication. I didn't watch it when it was being filmed. So I learned to watch it, and I was a Nick at Night kid. I watched Dick Van Dyke and Get Smart and I Love Lucy and Green Acres. So I like old television anyway, just in general.
But I hope I know sometimes the list of these shows kind of throws you off, but sometimes it's about the content and the messaging that some of these shows gave off. Because some of it was good messaging, like this show. Some of it, like Designing Women, it was kind of iffy. Like it showed you how the other people thought of us in their relationship with Seda Meshach, the Anthony Bouvier character. But look at stuff differently now because we have a lot of TV programming content that's coming out on many different platforms. But look at it for the value of its content first. And I'm learning how, that's how I've always watched TV. That's why my taste and stuff is all over the place when it comes to TV and film. But just look at the content value of anything. To everybody, what was that one show that you definitely, or movie on this lineup that you're definitely going to watch again, something that you love out of all of them? So what's your number one out of all of these?
That's hard. Probably Sister Act.
Yeah.
Probably Sister Act, because that had the most impact on me. The music, the character growth, the interaction. I was watching it thinking, man, I forgot how much I love this movie. And it's so Sister Act is probably, because I was just thinking I should show Ezekiel this. So.
It would be appropriate for him though. Like it wasn't racy or anything. Even the part 2 of it was good. Mr. Bleu.
I'll probably show him part 2 first.
Okay, yeah. It was a more youthful driven one. Yeah, I got it. Bleu.
I think for me, I'm actually going to watch Designing Women.
Okay.
So only because, not because it's my favorite, because I want to actually get into it. So I want to really look at it and like analyze it. So I probably watch Designing Women. But if I had to choose the show that I want to watch, it would probably be 227. Yeah. I mean, 227 was great. So, yeah.
And it's dated, it's a little dated, but it's still timeless, though.
Yeah.
You guys, I'm going to sign off. My phone is dying and I need to go to bed. It was wonderful chatting with you guys.
We're about to finish up.
Right.
It was great having you on. And if you're looking for a phenomenal actress, book her. She's it, and we'll have her information is attached to this show. So when we premiere it on YouTube, it'll also be on YouTube. So thank you.
All right.
Appreciate you.
Thank you.
So George,
I'm gonna check out this First Wives Club.
Okay.
I'm gonna check out this First Wives Club since y'all spoke so highly of it.
I mean, but the thing that's interesting.
So now I'm just saying. Go watch it.
So the thing that's interesting about you, George, is you like things like you love Meryl Streep, but on this side, it's kind of hard getting you to be into things, and I get that. But some of the, like, for me, I'm not saying I balance like a Bette Midler with a Meryl Streep, but that's how I look at her, because somebody who can sing, dance, act, I'm always enthralled in what they are capable of doing.
I mean, I think she sing and dance great. I ain't never really been all that thrilled about Bette Midler's acting.
Because she's always done serious roles.
It's me.
But this one will show you, and she has that same, she's real all over. Like, she uses her whole body to act. So she makes a lot of faces and a lot of expressions in her acting. So I just enjoy her because I think she's funny.
I'm gonna check it out. You can give me 5 minutes to talk about it next week.
So Bleu,
if it's some bullshit, I'm gonna let you know.
Yes, we know you're gonna tell us. But for you, Bleu, let us know where we can find you on social media. Tell us a little bit about your podcast, and a little bit about you. You got music coming out, and
you can find me on Facebook, Blue Waters. You can always join us for the Cocktail Social, which is on Be Exposed Radio every Friday at 7 p.m., where we have adult conversation over cocktails. And it is exactly.
And that's cocktail with a K and not with a C.
That's the only way that you should have your cocks. And
on that note, George, you got any updates, any information you want to share with the people?
No, not really. Y'all know me. I'm G. Oliver. I ain't got nothing going on for no shameless self-promotion right now.
How was your first week back to school?
It was pretty decent. It was dope.
Was it a big turnout? I said it like it was a concert or something, but did a lot of students come back?
Yeah. Actually, considering, like, I was getting ready to say no, because my school, we have almost 700 kids at my school, and we right now I think we have like 86 kids in the building. So I was getting ready to say no, but we brought back 3, 4, and 5. Okay, and from what we can bring back, like I think like we may have had the capacity to bring like 110, 120 students in total across those 3 grades back. So we got about 86. So actually, that's a lot. That's actually a lot. I mean,
so y'all didn't bring back y'all middle school. Y'all just brought back y'all elementary school.
So middle school comes back on April the 12th across the city, grades 6, 7, and 8. Actually, I think kindergarten 6, 7, 8 come back on April the 12th. And but the thing is, with the social distancing guidelines and whatnot, like, like you can get 10, 11 students in a classroom, maybe 12 in the larger ones, but that's about it. So when you look at it from that perspective of like how many students we actually can bring back, we got a good number. It's like maybe like 2 or 3 classes that aren't close to being full, if not full. We got several classes that are like.
But you're definitely like the school that Arundel. Well, I'm not gonna say the name. The school that like I was at. Your school, it has a lot more advancement, so they have a lot more flexibility.
That's true too. Like so my school in particular, it's one of the new 21st century buildings. So the ventilation is already great. even though they still got the individual ventilators per classroom, just like across the district. Water filtration system.
Do y'all have, because that in my classroom I had my own bathroom. Do y'all have your own bathroom?
So remember that my school is not the traditional. They changed up the grade configurations when they did that. Yeah. So my school is 3rd through 8th.
Right.
So there are no bathrooms in the classroom, because by the time you get to 3rd grade, they let you go to the bathroom. You know what I mean? So no, none of our classrooms have bathrooms in them.
Okay. So, I mean, this has been another episode, and we did great. We did really great.
Yeah, we did.
We met our quota. We went over a little bit, but we met our quota. But we got an issue with doing 5-hour shows here, and we definitely thank you, Bleu.
5-hour show, Bleu.
It felt like it. We did that. It was almost 4 hours. So don't.
We did have to cut one episode into 2 because
right. But so this has been.
But you know what, yo? You know what? Huh?
Oh yeah.
No, yo, like we be going.
Yeah, it get kind of heated.
You know what? But you know what? If you got good content and you build your fan base up the right way, because my boy like Kevin Smith, so he does everything that's like comic book related and all that stuff. But Kevin Smith has a podcast very similar to what we're doing. It's on YouTube. I'm not sure where else it is. I watch it on YouTube. But the first time I started watching his podcast, it's called Fat Man. It's like Fat Man Forever or something like that. And it was 3 hours long. And I thought it was just that episode, right? Because you might just have every episode is literally like 3 hours long. And but the content is good, and the people come out to watch it. So I think it's more about content than it is about like if you're having an interesting conversation, if you have those various perspectives, and he always has guests on his show, so it's not just sitting there listening to him ramble on. But no, like the content is really good, especially if you're into that. You know what I mean? Like, so he has a very niche market, but for his niche market, like he just does his thing, but his episodes are 3 hours long, like. Standard.
But when you get into it, it kind of can get like that. But we still were trying to challenge ourselves to kind of get it down to an hour.
Because being concise is actually harder.
Yeah,
it's actually like being concise and kind of getting yourself to a point, like saying what you got to say and moving on. That's actually
I think having guests this season has helped us out tremendously.
Absolutely, because they will let us know, like Big Mama, like, hey, I gotta go. I gotta get up in the morning. My phone dying. I ain't got time for all of this. So like, it has been a help. But we'll be back next week to talk about the funny mamas of TV. It is our final installment of our Women's History Month. Don't ever, y'all will never come to the Binge Worthy podcast talking about we didn't give it up for the ladies, because we gave y'all shine all month. Most places, I've been checking for this. Like most podcasts,
it'd be like one episode.
Most TV shows. Most everything is like we're gonna dedicate one of our segments to Women's History Month, to Black History Month. It's not even just the women. It's like when we did Black History Month all February, and we did Women's History Month all March. And next week we're doing our final segment for Women's History Month. We're gonna talk about the funny moms of TV.
My childhood crush, Miss Felicia Rashad.
Thank you so much.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Felicia was bad. She was bad. Miss Rashad.
She still is bad. She still is. She's a humdinger.
Yeah. We're gonna talk that. We should definitely add Roseanne in there for some spice.
I think we can.
And I was just thinking that earlier today when I was looking at that list to see what I needed to catch up on. We should definitely add Roseanne in there for some spice. And
even though she's been canceled, but we still value what she's done.
Yeah, exactly. Because I mean, like, legacy is legacy, and you're right. Like, she should absolutely have been held accountable for the bullshit that she did, but it don't mean that like what has come. I think people reading too much into the quote unquote cancel culture that they need to.
We've been saying that from day one.
I think that holding people accountable is important, but holding people accountable doesn't just erase them from existence.
But you have to hold them accountable for something, not just wipe them out.
But that's the thing. I don't think we're wiping anybody out. Like, I think that when you're held accountable, you have to be willing to accept real life in real time consequences. Mm-hmm. So in real time, there's probably a lot of people who not fucking with Roseanne, not watching her stuff. I know that her stuff has been taken out of syndication, but it hasn't been erased from existence, right? Mm-hmm. It's still out there. And if you
she got a big check to step down.
If you really want to,
she good.
And if you really want to find it, you can find it. Like the Cosby Show, we know that it's NBC took it out of syndication for a while. A lot of the other places where it was in syndication took it down, but it's still out there if you really want it. If you really want to watch the Cosby Show, like, it ain't out of reach. You know what I mean? But holding people accountable is important. I think there's this balance, but I also think publicly, from the general perspective, I think a lot of people just read too much into it. It's like they act like we actually like literally erasing these people from existence, and we're not. Like, it's just like we want you to be held accountable for whatever the fuck shit or bullshit that you did, and you're gonna do that.
Do you have any last words, Blue?
No, just thank you for having me. I enjoyed the conversation.
Bleu is going to come back for, I believe, our last episode of the season.
Hold on,
well.
give me a second. I'll tell
and
you.
That's going to be the.
Which one is this?
We will have Bleu back. Yeah,
and all of those.
Episode 13, and that's going to be our LGBTQ plus episode.
Huh. Well,
which you said.
You know, this is going to be like the third time we talked about Moonlight on this show. I just want to point that out.
I really like
that movie a lot too. But we talked this is going to be the third time we talked.
But I think the perspective that we're going to have the conversation with has changed each time. So when Blue come back on, that perspective from that angle, being as though we're going to focus on the LGBTQ aspect of it, is going to be a different conversation. So we've been able to talk about it from just the aspect of it being a Black film to some of the other issues that we pulled out of it, the relationship, the love aspect that we did in February, to now, the elephant in the room conversation. But thank everybody for tuning in. Thank you all for continuing to watch and share. My apologies for last week. Our episode, YouTube was having some issues, so we're going to re-release next week's episode as a bonus episode next week. Sorry for that, but thank you for everybody that continues to watch and support. Just keep sharing it out, keep sharing the message. Me and George are working hard, talking late at night like this, but we're making it work. And shout out to all of our guests, Alma and Blue, for tonight for coming on. And don't forget to follow us on Facebook as well as Instagram. You'll get all of our surprises. And at some point, George is going to start first of all, he's doing that shit that we do. Don't for me, because I'll keep talking. But I'm talking. So just continue to support us, keep sharing, and we'll be coming up with some new content soon and like our bonus episodes. So peace out, everybody.
All right, y'all. Good night.
Bye.
See y'all next week.